And welcome back to the podcast. Lot to talk about today. Today I have with me Molly. Molly, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Molly. I'm from the UK and I started watching in June of 2020. So we're coming up on a year relatively soon.
Almost a year. Wow, that's insane. Quarantine Earper. Molly, you were on before.
Mhm.
Back when the first 4B trailer got released, way back when.
Oh,
And
wow.
we've had 4 insane episodes now. Before we get into last night's episode, how did you like the first 3 episodes?
I loved them. They were much more, they're very, had like a very light-hearted tone to them in lots of ways, which was really fun to see. Just, especially the Earp sister episode was really lovely. I miss Nicole, but still, I really enjoyed the episode. Seeing them together and yeah, just kind of more light-hearted and playful. It's really nice
Yeah.
in comparison to this episode,
And then we got this episode,
which was a bit of a difference from the last one, although still amazing.
It took a hard turn. Just
It
went
really did.
whoop. I was like, whoa, okay. Which was expected though. I was like, with 3 episodes left, you're like, okay, we need to start getting things going. I think the last 3 episodes were setting not so much for the plot, but there's like little things in the plot that were important, but more setting up the characters and what they'll be going through for the last 3 episodes, which is of course always still important. So with that being said, 410 was insane. We start off with a great montage of Wynonna just waking up, killing demons, getting drunk, going back to sleep, and doing that all over again, but progressively getting more drunk at the same time, which makes for some good laughs, but then that's the only laughs we get for the rest of the episode.
Pretty much.
Just that. And so at one point, towards the end of the montage, of course, Peacemaker is gone. She goes to reach for Peacemaker, not there. She's like, well, that's not good. so
losing Peacemaker.
Oh, always. She always loses Peacemaker. Like, what? She lost it, like she left it at Casey's when when they went into the fog and she came back and she just dropped him. Like, good job, Wynonna.
Brilliant. But,
yeah. So smart. And so then Wynonna walks into the homestead and she's like, this line was great. Fiance's as cute as Beyonce. I was like, wow. Not wrong.
No.
Not wrong. And so Waverly and Nicole are waiting for Wynonna in the kitchen, and Wynonna makes nothing of it though. She's just like, all right, whatever you guys are doing, I'm just gonna get more alcohol. Also, I lost Peacemaker, by the way.
Yeah, it's just so like, I just lost it.
No big deal, I'll get it back. And so, but turns out some things are Black Badge has stopped putting supply trucks into Purgatory to go through the Triangle, so they have nothing there. They're running real low on supplies now. And so that's like Nicole's one and only line of this whole intervention.
No.
And Waverly kind of just takes over, which for me, like, I felt like Nicole should have said something more, because like her and Wynonna are friends, but Waverly was very much on the lead for this one, which I feel like has more of an impact on Wynonna because it's her sister and they have such a close relationship.
So I think that the way that she reacted was, she was very hurt because it's Waverly and she doesn't want to disappoint Waverly as well. So I think Waverly saying that to her, kind of the whole intervention, especially near the end, like when they go outside, you really see her. She's upset as well as being really angry. She's also upset, and that's Melody is amazing.
Oh, so good. So intervention time. Turns out Waverly took Peacemaker. She pulls it out of the drawer on the table and sets it on the table all nicely. And the reaction, I didn't notice this before until I watched it this morning because it was crazy last night.
Mhm.
The face Wynonna made when Waverly puts it on the table, she was like, oh, you have it.
Yeah.
And that's when she's kind of like, something's going on here.
She
And
realizes.
yeah. And so they start getting talking like, we love you. This is not to hurt you. We just have
Mhm.
some concerns. And I love the one part where I don't remember the line that Wynonna said, but Rachel's on the stairs like listening in, and she's like, nobody who's underage. And Rachel's like, okay, that's my
Yeah.
cue to leave.
I think it's when she's talking about how she's hunting alone and that there's no one there to like help her, which ties into what happens later. But with Rachel kind of appears like,
Yeah.
I'll help you.
I'll do
then
it.
and then when Wynonna says no, Waverly's kind of response to her is, I think it really indicates like how worried Waverly is about her and how almost it's not completely out of character for Wynonna, but it's like a harsher version because she's so hurt.
Yeah. And so so Wynonna's like, I'm hunting alone and that's how it's gonna be. And Waverly's like, you're really sad and lonely. And I was like, ooh, no. I was like, really just like it's passive, it's so passive aggressive. And I think that's what makes it worse, because like if this was just a yelling match between the two, they would just be stubborn and nobody would actually listen. But because Waverly is like being real calm about it, Wynonna can actually listen and not get super defensive. I mean, she's already defensive, but like not as much. And so that's why the reaction of Wynonna is so strong, is because Waverly isn't like upset. Like she's obviously upset, but that's not like the tone that she has when she's talking.
She's more, she's got a sad like tone to her voice, and so deep down Wynonna can recognize the concern, but she doesn't know how to like accept the concern, and she doesn't want to deal with it, so she just pushes her away. And then obviously you have that bit at the end of the intervention before Wynonna leaves. You have that exchange, which
that exchange is real sad. And so but there's a couple lines. So before they run out of the house, Wynonna says, we don't all have the luxury of happily ever after. So this is really in Wynonna's head that she will not ever be happy, which upsets me, because like we all want Wynonna to be happy. And the fact that she doesn't think that she can get love in like any sort of way, like even like if she's not in a relationship and she ends up with nobody, like she won't be happy just with having friends and her sister and stuff like that. That's where like she's just not happy overall. I was like, Wynonna, look at what you have here.
Yeah, I know. You've got this amazing found family, with all her friends and Waverly. And I think it's a bit of a, I think it's just because of how hurt she is about Doc. I think she's just projecting that onto her whole situation, rather than like actually looking at it and going, oh, hey, look, I've got my best friend and my sister who are safe. And she just kind of is ignoring it in a way, where because she's so hurt from the situation with Doc.
And so that's when Wynonna storms out. Waverly goes out after her. And so they kind of this is where they kind of more start yelling at each other, because they're so upset. And there's a few lines more towards the beginning, and then the middle part I kind of just, I don't know, and then the end lines I got. So one was, if I stop killing demons, everyone gets eaten. So Wynonna has a big protector role that she feels like she has to fit into. Like she has the mindset, at least right now, not really thinking about it, that she's doing this for everybody else. Where Waverly's thinking like, I think you're more doing this for yourself, because it makes Wynonna feel good. And I just think it's a little bit of both.
I'd agree. I think it's like
Wynonna doesn't want to do this, but she
I think
has
that's
to.
from the past. If you look back throughout the seasons, you know, for instance, with like Willa, for instance, she didn't want to kill her, and in a lot of situations, she doesn't want to do it. She's doing it because she has to, because she's the Earp heir. And I think, yeah, Waverly's saying that, you know, that she wants to do it. I wouldn't go as far to say that. I think maybe it's the only thing that she thinks that she can do, her only use almost. So that's why she keeps doing it. And maybe Waverly sees as that her as wanting to do it, but I think there's a miscommunication.
It's like maybe a little bit of somewhat enjoyment out of it. Like Wynonna has some fulfillment in doing this, so that's why she does it, because she feels like she's useful in that way, and that's kind of the only thing that she, like you said, can do. And she doesn't really do anything else. We haven't really seen her do anything else besides killing demons. So she's kind of like, this is my thing. Let me do my thing. And then the other line that I wrote down, which was real true, and that one hit me hard, was, when you kill a Clanton, it's okay, but when I do it, it's a problem.
Yeah, that's
not wrong.
She's not. No, and not at all. I remember that line, and I really thought, I was like, oh, I mean, I was watching it at like 2 a.m, but still, even then, I was like, oh yeah, that is true. And I think
that did happen.
Waverly didn't really have much of a response to that, and I think that's kind of
because Waverly doesn't remember that much of killing Man. Like from what episode was it? It was the first one, 407. She's like talking with Doc, and she's like, I really don't remember what happened.
Yeah.
And so
I didn't know if that was her actually not remembering or like not wanting to talk about it. But now I think more she doesn't remember, in which that links to what happens later. In that,
and we get into these powers that she doesn't really know very much of. And later she says it's something she can't control, like, because she literally knows nothing about this. So she really doesn't remember. So I feel like Waverly's like, I can't defend this because it's true, but I also really don't remember what's happening. So I also can't defend myself because I don't remember it. And so that was, and then Waverly says, I don't remember the full line because I did not write it down. Something along the lines of, it didn't take a long time or we would have had more time from you going to fun drunk to mean alcoholic. I was like, whoa,
this is going too far, Waverly.
We are crossing a line here.
Yeah, I think especially after the Earp sister episode, where there's that little bit at the end before Nicole turns up and the end scene happens, where she mentions that on Halloween, like when she tried to make Halloween better for Waverly, and their dad like locked Wynonna like in the like, I think we don't have much, like we know, you know, he wasn't great and he was abusive, but like we don't know to the extent, and you get little bits like that which kind of show you what he was like. And I think Waverly's comment there, you kind of see the power of that comment after
she's like almost hinting towards that you're becoming like Ward, like you're becoming like Dad. And Wynonna is obviously doesn't like their father, like very against him. So the fact that she has felt she's been compared to her dad is like very off-putting, because their dad was horrible to like everybody in that family. And so she very personally attacked on that, whether Waverly meant it, which I think we all agree Waverly was hinting towards that, or Waverly kind of just said it and didn't realize the implication of it.
I think so.
And then, so Wynonna runs off, and she says, have fun planning your wedding, you sanctimonious asshole. And that really got Waverly upset.
That did.
And so Waverly goes back into the homestead. Nicole's getting ready to go. Full uniform back on, by the way. Let's just say, I know, nope, that is not what we're focusing on this episode, but I needed to point it out.
Yeah, there was definite, because she obviously had, it was the first scene that we saw like in the trailer, when in her like uniform, and it was like that scene, and she has the braid.
Yeah. And the Stetson's on the table.
I know. And then she puts it on as she's walking out. And I was like,
she does. I was like, ooh, ooh.
yeah.
And so they have this Waverly and Nicole have this little moment trying to figure out like Wynonna's gonna come around. She's after she's done being Wynonna, she'll realize what Waverly's saying has some truth to it. And I pretty much just wrote down that Waverly says she's trying not to lose her.
Yeah.
And that hurt, like, because Wynonna is really falling down a hole of some sort here.
Yeah,
and we can all see that. But in the end, that usually happens a lot with Wynonna. I feel like whether how deep the hole is varies. But once she gets to the bottom of said hole, she always climbs out of it somehow, whether that's her by herself or with other people helping her. And so they have such a worry because Waverly feels like this hole is something that Wynonna can't get out of. Like it's too deep for Wynonna to climb out of, even like with help, it seems like, for Waverly. So she's just scared of losing her. Obviously that won't happen because
it can't.
We know one, I refuse to accept that. Two, I believe the writers would not do that.
Yeah, I just no. Because they can't, because obviously season 5 is still up in the air, so they can't do anything to Wynonna because
exactly. We kind of need Wynonna,
you know, like her name is the title of the show, so it would be a bit difficult to have a season 5 if something happened to her. Hopefully it doesn't, but we'll see.
And so Nicole walks out, puts on the Stetson and walks out. And people tweeted about this, but I didn't see it until this morning. Waverly calls somebody, but if you notice, Dom is holding the phone upside down, and I didn't see that till this morning. And I was like,
I didn't notice it until someone pointed it out on Twitter, and then I think someone said, and Dom actually replied.
She's like, did I? And she did. It's there. You see the charge port on the top of the phone there when she puts it up to her ear. It was so funny. And so she says to whoever she's on the phone with, we obviously find out who this is, meet at a place and bring the thing. I was like, what place, what thing, who are you talking to, what's going on? And so turns out she was calling Doc, and they have met at the stairs, and Doc has the book. The book has finally made its return. How many episodes has it been? Like 8 episodes.
Yeah.
In the span of a real long time. We've been wondering about this goddamn book.
I know. Everyone's like, what? When are we going to find out about the book? We've got a few episodes left.
Exactly. Turns out the book is blank, though. So what the hell?
Something's going to happen with that book.
Oh, definitely. But Waverly did choose her own book.
Yeah.
We've all been speculating.
I didn't think she did. Like when everyone was obviously, since we've known that she picked a book up until finding out, there's obviously been a massive debate on which book she picked. And I think I never saw anyone say that she picked Doc's book. I only ever saw people say hers, Wynonna's, or Nicole's.
Yeah.
And I thought she would have picked Nicole's, but then her explanation of picking hers actually made so sense.
She said Wynonna and everyone else is a part of her story, so not only would she learn about herself, she'd get some insight into everybody else, because they've all played massive roles in her life. And like, of course, it's only been how many years time, but like those are some very transformative years for Waverly. Like so much change has happened to her since the show has started, that there's going to be just a lot in that book for those past however many years.
Yeah.
And
I like she picking, I think especially because of the name, because it's Waverly Gibson, not Waverly Earp. I was kind of interested on that front of, is it almost linking to like the alternate reality that we saw? I can't even remember when that episode was.
Yeah, was it 211?
Yeah, I can't remember.
211.
Yeah, and obviously her name is Waverly Gibson in that. So I think, I would be surprised if there wasn't a link between
Well, yeah,
that.
because we obviously know Waverly isn't really an Earp. Like
Mhm.
Michelle is her mom, but Michelle is Gibson and her father is Julian.
Who doesn't
So
have a name, I suppose, because
he's
he's
an
an
angel,
angel.
doesn't need a last
No.
name. But it's kind of the Garden of Eden, whatever you want to consider the Garden of Eden,
Mhm.
is kind of this big overall thing that kind of sees everything. Like if you think of heaven, there's biblical stuff that's, so I'm just
Mhm.
going to get kind of biblical here. Like
Yeah.
God sees over everybody and sees the truth of everybody. So I understand that they would put Gibson over Earp because she's not an Earp.
It-
And with this
uh,
angelic stuff happening now, she's definitely not an Earp.
no.
But she still takes the name because it's for Wynonna in her life that she grew up with. She has been an
Yeah.
Earp and she's held on to those ties that she's just not gonna give up unless when she gets married. I
Yeah,
think
maybe I'm so interested to see what they do with that, because
it,
I've heard
it,
arguments for both sides and they make sense.
I'm going with Waverly Hot here. Nicole Earp doesn't sound right to me. You can't get
No,
rid of the last name Hot. You just can't. Like you put that name in there. One, that name real creative, but two, there's some history behind that name that we
yeah,
have
yeah,
not got into. And
yeah,
so just to get rid of that name has a big deal. And we can't get rid of Earp because Wynonna, like
yeah,
it's just not gonna
yeah.
happen.
No, I think, well, they might do both, like take both
Oh,
names.
hyphenate?
Yeah,
No, they could do
or
that.
they
Or
will
they just
just,
don't change last names.
yeah, or
There's
that.
people who just don't change their last names.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't know. I think wasn't it like a panel years ago that Dom said that she thought that maybe if there was a wedding, that she thought that Waverly might change her name, because even though she's had the name Earp for so long, but she's not actually an Earp, so it might
Mm-hmm.
feel nice to change her name to something where she really
Yeah,
feels like she does belong to that name.
exactly. Yeah, I definitely agree. So, Doc and Waverly at the stairs, they're having this discussion about this book, and they get into the part where there's a lot of things that happen in the garden. Doc says a lot of that garden was very deceiving, and they start talking about the throne, and Waverly's like, I sat down on that throne and it took all my cares about everything and everyone away. And the
Mm-hmm.
look in Doc's eye, he says, like, that's like hell. Like, one,
Yeah.
he knows what hell is like, and two, I feel like after watching it a couple times, his emotions and connections to people keep him grounded.
Mm-hmm.
And without those, he would just turn full vampire. Like
Yeah.
he has no one, nothing to care about. So he would just go off the rails. And so those Wynonna and everybody else is keeping him grounded and keeping him human in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And where Waverly's like, well, no, it's actually kind of heaven for me because Waverly just cares about everybody. She
Yeah.
has such a big heart and is the good and the light of this group pretty much, that taking all that away is like this big weight off of her shoulders.
Mm-hmm. I definitely
And
resonate with that a bit in terms of like feeling responsible for like other people's happiness is something that I feel. So I think that I kind of understood on that level what she meant, in terms of, obviously she doesn't want to not care for Wynonna and Nicole, obviously, but that little bit of time where she didn't care was nice, and I kind of understood the difference in how Doc and Waverly felt about
mm-hmm.
in that moment.
Yeah, it was kind of big, and it was nice to see the contrast with people who've had kind of a shared experience in the garden, and kind of seeing that they came out of it in two completely different ways.
Yeah, definitely.
And so really touching back into the garden, I feel like is gonna affect them both. Obviously, we've kind of see what happens to Waverly, but like we really haven't gotten into what happened with Doc. I mean, a little bit with his kind of changing morality and what he wants to kind of become. We've seen that a little bit, but I haven't feel like we've seen bigger impact, which I feel like might come later, or it might just progress over a longer period of time.
Yeah.
And so then Dallas and Remy, the two fun demon guys, they come in the forest and they're like, we're hungry, we want to eat. Doc, move out of the way, leave the girl. Little do they know Waverly isn't fully human.
No.
Which I find really funny, because they're like, leave the girl. I was like, she's not human, you're gonna kill an angel here, guys.
Yeah, I mean, not the best idea.
Yeah. So Doc shoots Dallas in the shoulder. That obviously doesn't do nothing. And so Waverly has Peacemaker still, of course. And so she tries to use Peacemaker. Doesn't work.
Yeah. I knew straight away when she got it out of the bag before she tried. I was like, it's not gonna work.
It's not gonna work. And it's like she tries to shoot, but it's like it's not even loaded. That's what it kind of felt like. There's probably bullets in there because Wynonna always has bullets somewhere. But it just doesn't work. So we were just like, what the hell? This worked before, which was like 3 years ago. So
yeah, I think it was more because the first time when it did work, it was, she didn't think it was going to, and it was Wynonna who was like, yes, it will work, and she didn't think it would. Whereas in that, she was almost just expecting it to, and Peacemaker was like,
and a lot has changed for Waverly too. There's big changes since season 2 to 4th season. And so we didn't even know Waverly was an angel back then. We just knew that she wasn't totally an Earp.
Yeah.
And so now we kind of have this big thing where Waverly's like something else and can't really use Peacemaker anymore, which we get more into later, actually. It's really interesting. And so then Waverly runs, and she goes into the fog, or the fog kind of consumes her. Remy says that the fog consumes her, like she's running and the fog like just takes her in. It kind of just looks like she runs in the fog, maybe a little bit of both.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah, we'll go with a bit of both.
Yeah. So Waverly's in the fog. She's obviously cupping her mouth because if she breathes any of it in, she goes cuckoo bananas. And we've seen that before, obviously.
We have.
And so somebody in this area is calling Waverly's name. Sounds a bit familiar.
I recognized the voice and was like, when I heard the voice, I was like, I know.
Yeah. So there's this cabin in the woods, and Waverly's like, hey, I'm just gonna go check if that person's in the cabin. Oopsie daisy, guess who's there?
Oh no.
Jolene. Everybody, Jolene's back. And if nobody freaking noticed, I didn't notice this till later, Zoe Palmer's name in the credits were during that kitchen intervention.
I noticed it the second time I watched it. I was like, how did we
miss this? We were too focused on Wynonna.
Yeah.
And so Jolene's back. Jolene is also blonde and wearing a flannel. Great. It was great.
It was great.
And okay, so then we get a little bit of explanation because we're like, isn't Jolene dead?
Yeah.
Isn't she supposed to be dead? Turns out, when Bolshar died, the vines that consumed her, they released her. And so she's alive. And so I'm thinking, because Wynonna shot her, I don't remember which came first. Did the vines consume her and then Wynonna shoot, or did she shoot and then the vines happened?
I think the vines were like starting to consume her, and then Wynonna shot her.
So the thing is with that is because Bolshar and the Earp Air are total enemies here, and I feel like because they were Bolshar's vines that protected Jolene in a way.
Yeah, maybe.
So she wasn't fully dead. So she's alive. And Waverly tries to run out too slow. Jolene headbutts her into that one pole in the cabin and knocks her out. And then we cut back to the forest with Doc. BB comes in, just shoots everybody with tranquilizers and takes them back to Black Badge. So Black Badge is playing a bigger role now.
Again, they're back.
They're back. It's never a good thing when they're back.
No. Never when you have anyone other than Jeremy, basically.
Yeah, Jeremy's the only good one. Can Jeremy just be the head of Black Badge. Can we
Yeah.
just make that happen? And then now we get to the boxing scene. Wynonna is doing punch and bag. This was a bit of the was this the other promo?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was two. The one, the montage, and then this one, I believe.
I think so.
Yeah.
Or photos.
So there was photos, definitely.
Yeah.
And so Wynonna's doing the punch bag, blast the music. Rachel comes in, turns down the music, and Wynonna's like, "What do you want?" She's obviously still upset because of the intervention. And Rachel's like, "Hey, I'm sorry, but like, can we train?" And Wynonna's like, "You really want to do this?" And basically, Wynonna, like the way Rachel's talking is like, it sounds like Rachel kind of wants to be Wynonna. And I feel like that's okay. They both had traumatic childhoods.
Yeah, definitely.
And they can connect over that. And Rachel is very much a child in purgatory, and Wynonna's like, purgatory isn't really made for children. And so Rachel's like, yeah, so train me so I don't have to worry about that. And the one line that I got was Obi-Wan Wynonna. And as a Star Wars fan, that was a great line.
It was a very great line. That one, it was so one good. Of the solo funny moments.
It was so good because, like, for people who don't watch Star Wars, it's the whole relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin is Obi-Wan didn't plan to be to train Anakin. It was kind of put upon him because Qui-Gon died, which was Liam Neeson's character.
Yeah.
If nobody knows.
I know some Star Wars.
Yeah. And so this is kind of a similar situation. Where
it's kind of a forced upon situation in a way that Wynonna understands Rachel's reasons in that she needs to be able to protect herself. Exactly. And Wynonna gets it, but at the same time she doesn't want to. But yeah, I think it, especially when Rachel says like that, I want to be like you, Wynonna or Melanie's face is just again so good, like showing the emotion that Wynonna felt in that.
She doesn't have to say any words.
The weight of that comment, you know, saying I want to be like you, and how Wynonna is feeling at that time. She's like, you really don't want to be like me.
You don't want to be me. This is not a good person to be like.
Yeah, which is really sad as well.
It is sad. Yeah. And then we cut to Black Badge for a real quick scene. Cleo.
Yeah,
I love Cleo. This episode, she was great. It was so good. So Cleo's trying to get out of the Ghost River Triangle. She kind of just wants to leave. Doesn't want to do this anymore.
I don't blame her.
I wouldn't either.
I would get out there as well.
Yeah. And so as she's trying to do this, one of the Reapers kind of sneaks in like, hey, can I eat this one? And she's like, I fed you a bus full of people. Go eat with the others. I was like,
I was
wow.
Confused. I was like, oh, she actually did that.
I was like, she did, because it gets brought back up later.
Yeah.
And so Cleo gets cleared though. Cleo passes the screening and is clear to go, but that doesn't go so well for her because she ends up somewhere that she didn't want to be later. And so they meant the Black Badge lady that was doing the screening mentions that her brother and her mother died, and she's like, well, brothers, but how'd you know that? She's like, this computer knows everything. And I was like, that's scary. First of all, that's privacy stuff going on there. Definitely. And but the lady says, well, the good thing is that they always stay with you. And Cleo totally disagrees with that at all costs. She's like, no, I don't like that part, because she literally gets up and it's Billy the Reaper standing right behind her. I was like, that is so ironic. So good.
It was, again,
like they literally cannot leave her. She has no choice.
No, they literally are right there.
And so now we get to Wynonna and Rachel going out and training.
Yeah.
And Rachel's, looking for something. I don't know what she's looking for. I feel
I
like
don't
they're
know.
just
She
practicing
looked
at this
like
point.
Dora the Explorer a bit in her
Oh,
with her
it
bag.
was so funny. People were making that. Were saying that stuff on Twitter last night, and that was so funny. And it was good. And so Wynonna's like, Rachel, you're doing it wrong. And Rachel's like, then how do I do it? This is so weird. I don't know what I'm doing. And so pretty much Wynonna says, you put on a skimpy outfit and you play dumb, and they come to you, and then you just shoot at them. Pow.
Just shoot them. Easy.
Not that hard. And so then they start getting into this real kind of heart-to-heart talk just for a little bit. And I just said, Rachel says, you're my family. And I was like, oh, another part of the family, another person. And then Wynonna's like, you don't want to be part of this family. We're kind of fucked up. And she says, nobody wants to be an Earp. And then Earps, they always end up alone. I was like, wow, Wynonna.
Because she's
really
going into
in
the
your
fact,
head.
that obviously because Waverly isn't an Earp, in that she is not alone. So she's really going with the whole like, I'm gonna be alone like all the Earps before me. I'm like, just why do you like put yourself in that box? You're like, yes, I'm.
You could just say that you're not. Like, you could just like have a different mindset here. Like, think about it. And then
the idea.
Yeah. And so Wynonna is, you know what? Let me show you how this is done, Rachel. She kneels down and immediately there's blood on the branch, just on the ground. And she's like, well, here we go. And so they find Remy. Remy was left there, shot in the leg. Rachel's tending to his wound.
Very sweet. I think that shows the link between Nicole and Rachel, in that's what Nicole would have done. And I think you kind of see the results of them spending 18 months together.
Yes, exactly. And but turns out Remy plays bass in a Halsey tribute band. Amazing.
I love the just little things that they slip in. It's so
I know, it's so good. Yeah. And so pretty much Remy explains what happened to Wynonna. Doc and Dallas got taken to BBD and Waverly is in the fog, and Wynonna's like, excuse me?
Yeah, you see her face kind of changes there from like, I don't care, I'm just like, I'm so, kind of self-pity and things from what she was about with Rachel, to instantly like focused on what's going on with Waverly.
Exactly. And so then we go to BBD. Doc and Dallas are in a Black Badge jail cell. And this dude walks up. Who is this agent dude? We don't know. Haven't seen him before. We've seen him in the trailer, of course, but we didn't know who it was. And Doc's like, who are you? And he's like, you'll know soon enough. I was like, can you not be such like a dick? Like, I already don't like you.
He got worse as well.
He did. And then it turns out, so another dude in the back, another agent, he's like, we already have a demon like this guy, pointing out Dallas. And so they just like incinerate Dallas.
No.
I was like, whoa, what are we doing here? What are we doing here?
Awful. I was like, oh. And then, I think it was more like obviously Doc's reaction as well. And I saw some people on Twitter saying, wait, flamethrowers are just for Waverly, not for anyone else.
Exactly. And so Doc immediately gets angry at this. Yeah. He's like, no, not that he likes Dallas, but the fact that you killed him is not okay. So he takes the agent with the flamethrower. Yeah. He takes the agent with the flamethrower and just like bangs his head against the jail cell and knocks him completely out. And he gets real angry, growls, shows his fangs, and that's like, ooh, a vampire. I was like, Doc, the mistake you made. But actually it turns out okay because he doesn't die.
Yeah, as a result.
Exactly, because there have they have done some shit to people and they're like, ooh, a vampire, that could be useful. And so that kind of works out to Doc's benefit because
yeah,
they could have killed him if they wanted to.
definitely. Yeah.
And then we get back to Waverly. Oh, so much has happened. Waverly's tied up against this pole. And Jolene's, prancing around, just catching up with Waverly. She's like, girl, you're thriving. Look at you. And I was like, this isn't going to end well, is it?
No. It's really not going to end well. So anyway, just that, like, I don't know, Dom and Zoe are amazing together.
This is like, it's like 305 again, but like Waverly and Jolene are in such different places because things have happened since then. And so it's like definitely a similar situation, but they're in different headspaces. So they've had a little bit different reactions to certain parts.
Yeah.
And stuff. So it's very interesting. And I can't think. Waverly, she thinks that Jolene has just gone crazy from being in the fog. This fog is surrounding this cabin. So she's like, you're lying. You're going crazy. You've been here too long. And then Jolene is, doing her talky talk thing, very persuasive. And she says that demons are just fallen angels. And
I was like,
that's a heavy statement there.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that really clicks in Waverly's head. And I'll get more into that later because it's part of stuff that happens later. But it was a very interesting statement to make. And then she's like, you and I are the same, which we've heard before. But the more important part is she says, we are kin. Now, if we remember, that's what Bobo referenced Waverly and him as their kin. In what way? We still don't know.
No.
Bobo's
but
like
if we're going with what, if we're going with what Jolene was saying, it's because if, the fallen angel thing, if that's what demons are, and they're all demons, then therefore they're all linked in that way. And so
was Bobo, so if we remember Bobo, and if we remember I think it was like 208 or something where Wynonna did that vision quest thing and kind of went back in time. Bobo, Robert Swain, was not a bad dude. He was friends with Wyatt, and the way he turned into a revenant is because Wyatt had to shoot through Robert in order to kill Bolshar, or shoot Bolshar. He didn't kill him because he got buried alive, but and so very much kind of a fallen angel kind of thing. And so that could be how, for some reason, I feel like there's obviously more to it, because there's always more to it with there always is. And so I really wish we would just get an explanation.
I know.
Anyway,
I feel like we're low on time in terms of getting full explanations for everything. I think they said that the ending will be satisfying, so I think we'll get enough answers. But I just can't see how they could do all of it.
Oh, they can't do all of it. There's never enough time to do everything they would want to do.
No.
And then we get Wynonna standing in front of the fog. It's kind of just this wall of fog. And Nicole's there too with some gear. And Rachel. And they're like ready. We're like, we're gonna get Waverly out of this. How do we do it? And Jeremy won't pick up his phone. Where is Jeremy? He was there. Now he's not. What's going on? And turns out Wynonna's like, I know the person that could help us. It's Casey.
Of course it's Casey.
It's always Casey. And so Casey is their fog expert. And I love the apology dinner that he made Wynonna. Craft dinner covered in kimchi and weed is a great combination. Sounds about right for Casey.
Definitely.
And that was so funny. Casey is such a comedic relief character.
Definitely. Yeah, he brought definitely some comedic relief at this point. Yeah,
he does have his own feelings though, and we saw that in the Halloween episode when he was talking with Doc. we kind of got a little bit of that. Unfortunately, we may not get more. And so they're like, okay, so Casey's obviously going to go in the fog, but he can only take one other person. And so Wynonna and Nicole are like, it's going to be me. They're both like, it's
straight away as
like
well.
it's myself. And they're going back forth. They're just going back and forth. And Nicole's like, it's my fucking turn, Wynonna.
I know.
And I was like, it is your turn. It is your turn. I agree. And she's like, you've rescued Waverly so many times over and over again. I have spent 18 months alone waiting for her to get back. I'm going to get her back, however hard it will be. And Rachel's like, it is her turn, Wynonna. And Wynonna says Judas. And I was like, here we go with the biblical references again.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody doesn't know who Judas is the person who, I don't read the Bible, but betrays somebody.
Really? My little bit of primary school knowledge. Isn't it the guy who ends up telling the whatever is it the who are the people in charge at the time? I can't remember. He told the authorities where Jesus was so they could find him.
So he betrayed Jesus. That's where we're going with this.
Betrayed Jesus.
And then Judas turns into a fallen angel. Let's get back into this angel crap. Oh, so much. And so so there's another bigger biblical reference in this episode, of course. Mm-hmm. But Wynonna, just for the littlest things, is feeling betrayed. Like Rachel just says it is Nicole's turn, and Wynonna's like, fuck you, we just had a moment and now you're going on with Nicole. I was like, but her and Nicole have more of a connection. You got to remember this, Wynonna.
18 months.
They've had their alone time together. So and then we cut back to the cabin. Mm-hmm. And Waverly, of course, is still tied up, and Jolene sees Waverly's purse on the ground there, and Jolene's like, hey, what's in there? And she gets Peacemaker. And so I was like, okay, well, she can't grab Peacemaker. Like, she's a demon, she can't do that. She's kind of flaunting around with Peacemaker. And then it does end up burning her, and she's like, oh, and Waverly's like, see, you're not worthy. I was like, well, it doesn't work for you either, huh?
It doesn't shoot for you. You can pick it up, well, before you could, with Doc, but it didn't work for you.
So cocky.
I know. I think she's trying to get a bit back though, obviously, because she's tied up on the floor. And
she can't do very much, so she's kind of doing whatever she can.
So she doesn't. I think there's a definite fear, even though she knows she's in a different place to last time. But I think there's a fear of, because she knows what Jolene can do. So
exactly,
trying to get a bit of power back.
Yeah, and so, but Jolene, of course, has a knife. Still has a knife. This one's a little bit smaller, but it's a knife nonetheless. And then Jolene gets real close to Waverly's face there. It was very close, made me very uncomfortable. Didn't need that.
I was like, you just made comments about being sisters. Can we not?
You're getting real close here.
Close to her face.
Yeah. And then Waverly does say that I'm done being afraid of you. She's still afraid though. She won't admit it.
Yeah.
But she's trying to be very brave right now.
Yeah.
And so of course Jolene backs off a little bit, and she goes to this thing on the wall, some like little coat hanger thing, and there's a bunch of tally marks on it. And so Waverly, of course, thinking, is that how many days you've been stuck in here? Because there's a lot of tally marks there. And Jolene, once again, does her talking, very persuasive. She's like, don't you ever get bored of playing the damsel in distress? And Waverly's like, I'm definitely not the damsel in distress. She is, though. Jolene speaks so much truth when she talks. And she speaks the truth that nobody thinks of. And it hurts every time she says something, because I'm like, I didn't want you to admit that, but it's not wrong.
Yeah, a lot of the things that she says, although they may only be the partial truth at points, they're like the harsh truth. If you only, if you look at specific points, she doesn't say a lot of things that aren't true. So I think that's why she has such like persuasive power, is because the things that she's using against Waverly in this case are true. So, and Waverly knows that to an extent. So it's difficult for Waverly to ignore what she's saying.
Exactly. And I'm kind of marking all these lines that obviously these are lines that hit me the most and I think best summarize what's going on. And Jolene says, don't want the burden of being pure. And I feel like that connects to a later line that Waverly says in not wanting to be an angel. And because Waverly's always been the good one. She's always kind of been the light of the group. I've said that earlier. And so she I don't think she realizes that as much in herself. And I think when she does see that at points, she kind of tries to push away from it because she's like, I can be different. I'm not always just in this one box. Like I'm not just one type of person. And so then there's a lot of stuff in season 4 that's connecting back to season 1. And this one line, I think, does it for Waverly, where she says, what are you punishing Wynonna? Because she was chosen and you weren't. And that was an episode of season 1. I think it was like episode 3.
Yeah, early season 1.
And Waverly had this whole thing because Wynonna left. Waverly felt like she could take up the mantle of the heir. And so she's done all this. Yeah, she's done all this research and she did all this stuff. She just needed the gun. And then Wynonna comes back and she just does it real easy and can be the heir without all the work. And so I think that's still in Waverly's head. It's always Wynonna. It's always Wynonna.
Wynonna is the one who is the Earp heir, and she's the one who can save everyone, and Waverly can't do that. And I think it's because it was the episode where it was the guy who kept appearing in the mirrors. Was he called like the barber or something?
He was a barber,
and that scene by the lake where Waverly has to forgive Wynonna, and that scene, and obviously it links back to that, and it's, although she did forgive her technically, there's some still resentment there in how
she said the words. Doesn't mean they were completely true.
No. And it was kind of a very clear parallel there, which I noticed it straight away and was like, that is a very clear link between season 1 and 4.
And then Waverly says the line, I can be a hero and a wife. I was like, yay, she said a wife. Like, yes, you can. And then Jolene goes back to that board on the wall with all the tally marks, and she points back to it. She's still next to Waverly, of course. She says, those are all the lives Wynonna had to stuff out to save you. Some were demons, some were not demons. And that really weighs heavily with Waverly's, because earlier Waverly had, in the intervention when they were outside of the homestead, she's like, you've killed like not people who were not demons. Like, what about Holt and stuff like that? And so Waverly obviously gets upset because humans who she has such a caring heart, have been sacrificed to save her, and that really doesn't sit right with her, because I don't know if she doesn't feel like she deserves it.
Kind of issues of self-worth maybe, in that she doesn't, and that links back to kind of the whole undertone of like mental health with Jolene, and like that's always been something that draws back to on Waverly's mental health. And I think that's clear, and Jolene's using that as a way to be like, look, Wynonna's killed all these people just to protect you, and that goes straight back into Waverly doesn't think that she's worth that many lives.
Yes.
Which is understandable, because I think pretty much, you know, a lot of people wouldn't be able to understand or like reconcile with the idea that that many people died so they're alive.
Yeah,
difficult.
I agree. And then Jolene also says, in reference to Wynonna, all the weight of all that blood on her hands, and you couldn't lift one angelic finger. And there's so much truth in that. And like, Wynonna has done a whole lot, and they did this intervention, like, Wynonna, you're kind of spiraling here. I was like, well, what do you expect from someone who has such a burden? Like, of course they're gonna go down a hole that they don't want to, and they didn't choose to go down. They're just kind of trying to cope in the only way that Wynonna knows how, which is drinking. And so that kind of just, things just kind of happen like that when you're the only one that can do something. And Waverly could have helped. She had these powers. She doesn't know the powers. She's used them on rare occasions.
But she's choosing to not explore the powers because her reasoning is that she doesn't know, and what they could do, just know. And she has no one to tell her what they could do. There's no one. Like, so
Julian's dead.
You kind of,
Juan Carlo's dead.
You understand maybe her reasoning of why she hasn't explored the powers, but then there's also the flip side, which is obviously what Jolene is saying, is that technically she could explore those powers, and she has chosen not to, which is true. And the way Jolene is putting it, and obviously Waverly knows that as well, so that's how
and I feel like in Waverly's head it kind of cycles through the hypotheticals of, oh, what could have happened in these situations if I did use my powers? Like, could more things have been stopped, or would things have been worse? Like, nobody knows, especially her, like, what could have been with using her powers. But we will get insight into that next episode.
I know,
I'm very excited. And then we cut back to Wynonna, Nicole, Casey, and Rachel getting ready to go in, have all the equipment on. And the little bit that made me giddy was Wynonna helping Nicole like put on the gas mask.
Yeah, and she like pulls the strap.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, so like Wynonna may be angry at them, but she still cares for them, and she still loves them. And obviously they have, Nicole and Wynonna have this bond for Waverly, like that's their girl in different ways, of course, because sister, future wife, different relationship, but it's still theirs, and they still care for her a lot. And so why this is kind of Wynonna accepting the fact that she's gonna have to kind of share the responsibility of Waverly.
And I think Nicole is more forceful with that, in that, no, you do have to share with me, because last time when you didn't, I was alone for 18 months. So I'm not letting you do that again. We have to share the responsibility.
And I feel like Wynonna helping Nicole put on the gas mask is saying, like, you can do this, but I'm still here. And if you need help with helping Waverly, I will be here. And I thought, like, there was obviously no words said in that one part, but like, you have so much to go off of just from like that little bit
as well. And I think obviously Nicole's face is covered by the mask, but you see a change in her eyes when Wynonna pulls on the straps of the mask. And it's just this understanding between the two of them that you know, they're doing this because of Waverly, and they you know, they have the same level of care and like connection with Waverly, and that, you know, they may be mad at each other or whatever, but they put it aside because of Waverly.
And then so Casey and Nicole go into the fog. They're all hooked up, and they have a rope that's connected back to the car. New sheriff's car, by the way. I know we saw Holt. This is the car that Holt drove, but we have the new, it's like a Chevy Tahoe or something, and they have the rope line hooked up to the back. And so they go in holding not holding each other's hands, but they're holding on to each other because they will get lost because you can't see in the fog. Well, Casey can, but that's Casey.
But yeah, that's different.
And so Wynonna and Rachel are listening over a radio, and that's the only form of communication they have is this radio. And so they find the cabin in the fog. And they're like, hey, it's this cabin. They walk in, they're like, Waverly, hello, anybody here? And they see Waverly on the ground. You don't hear nothing from Waverly though, which is weird. So
you hear like some kind of cries out because you over Wynonna, you kind of can hear some noises, which Wynonna goes like, what's that? But no, she doesn't say anything, which I was surprised that she didn't say anything.
Same. So I was like, did Jolene knock Waverly out again, or is she like doing something?
Maybe.
Like, don't exactly know what's happening here. But then they get attacked, of course. And Nicole's like, I don't know how this is possible, but it's Jolene. And Wynonna's like, what? I killed her. How is she alive? And they don't know. And then things kind of go dark as they're getting attacked. And Rachel's like, we need to pull them back in. Like, we got to do this. And Wynonna like kind of refuses. She's like, no, Waverly's still out there. And then they get the signal to pull the rope back in. And so they start doing that. But Casey is the only one that comes back.
Yeah.
Where's Nicole? Where's Nicole? First, my initial thought was like, oh, Casey's here, but where's Nicole?
Yeah, I was like straight away, even though obviously how Casey's coming back, it does not look good.
It does not look
is you
good.
See the rope and that the rope between being cut.
That's very scary.
And yeah.
But turns out Nicole's okay. She comes back on over the radio. She's like, I'm okay, guys. I got spit out in the fog somewhere else.
Don't know
where, but I'm alive.
I assume that Nicole cut the rope because she realized that, I don't know, because how did the rope get cut? Did it break in the fight, or did she cut it so she would not?
Well, I feel like Casey gets hurt. He gets killed, right? And so Nicole sends the signal back in to pull them in, and then either Nicole cuts the rope or it gets cut by Jolene.
Yeah.
And then her and Jolene are still fighting, and then she gets kicked out of the fog somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just interesting how there's no proper communication between Waverly and Casey and Nicole. You don't really hear any conversation between the two of them. You just hear Waverly's cries, and then you hear Casey and Nicole fighting, and there's a bit of talking, but there's no between the two of them.
Yeah, you have nothing being said. And so but Casey is lying there on the ground, and Rachel's like, do we start CPR? What do we do? And Wynonna, like, it was so sad how Wynonna, like, she's so focused on Waverly that she didn't have time to like really care for Casey. She just turns and says, his neck is broken, he's dead.
His neck is broken, he's dead. Yeah. And I think it was a clear indication of like, Wynonna's had to close herself off from the reality of what death means because she sees it so much. So I don't think, and I think later on the way she cares for Rachel later on, it kind of shows that it is more of a defense mechanism because she wouldn't be able to deal with it, rather than she actually doesn't care. Because obviously she does. It's just a defense mechanism. And but the dynamic between her and Rachel in that situation is so sad, because that's where you see how Rachel has more of an innocence in that she hasn't experienced this. So her reaction to Casey's death is much more extreme. Like she's straight away, she wants to try and save him, and she's very focused on him. Her focus shifts, whereas Wynonna, her focus does not shift, it stays on Waverly.
And it's always going to stay on Waverly. Like, that's never going to go away. So then Wynonna just does her lovely scream for Waverly right at the edge of the fog there, because she obviously can't go in. She's like, if she goes in without any equipment, things are going to go wrong. And she's like, so I need to figure out a plan. And then we cut back to the cabin, and Waverly breaks loose of those ties, and people made a lot of things thinking it was Jolene because it was kind of like woody vine thingies that Waverly was tied with. And so that's where kind of the first thing with Jolene kind of came from. And so Waverly breaks loose, and my notes got messed up. Oh, there I am. Okay. And then she grabs Peacemaker, and Peacemaker burns her. And this is where we're all like, whoa,
what is going on?
What's happening now? I know you can't use Peacemaker, but the fact that it's burning you is not okay.
There's a complete shift, because obviously when Wynonna was giving birth, she could actually use Peacemaker, and then she can't use it, but she could still hold it, and now she can't even touch Peacemaker without it, which is
very
such a
scary. Yeah. And so then Waverly gets upset. Jolene's like, haha, look at you now. And Waverly just like fucking pushes Jolene into this coat hook.
Yeah. I
was like, wow. And then Jolene's like, I didn't want to do this, but you started it. So here we go. And then she takes herself off of the coat hook, which first of all, very painful.
Yeah.
And she takes the knife and she cuts open Waverly and digs in, which was very gross.
I know. And I was like,
I was like looking away. I was like, oh. And she takes out a feather. Oh no. A feather.
Yeah, straight. It was like, oh God.
And it's a very dark feather. It is like almost black. That was very scary. But I saw somebody say this on Twitter, and they were saying, if we remember from 305, Jolene can't physically hurt Waverly unless Waverly does it. So Waverly, obviously not remembering this because it was a long time ago, she hurts Jolene, and that gives Jolene the freedom to do something. And Jolene even says, like, when she says that comment, like, I didn't want to do it this way, but you kind of did this, so now I can do whatever I want. And so it's a feather though. It's so weird, like a singular feather.
Single feather. It's kind of like the beginnings. Of what's about to happen. But I was like, oh no,
not good. And then we cut back to Wynonna, and she's like, okay, I have to go in, but I can't like go in by myself, really. Like, I'm gonna have to go in by myself because there's nobody else here. Like, she's not gonna go with Rachel because somebody needs to stay out. And so she's trying to figure things out. And so Nicole is still on the radio. And so, you know, they're making sure like everything's okay. And so Wynonna's like, just get back here as soon as you can. That's the last we see of Nicole.
I know.
For the rest of the episode. And we've seen in the trailer that like Nicole's on the ground at some point in the forest. So we don't, how does Nicole end up like that?
I know. I was like, oh no, that's not good. Because she's outside of the fog and she's seemingly fine. But there's that scene and she's laying on the ground. Nope.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Not okay. And then we get back to Black Badge. So Doc is being moved to a different part of the prison, I'm gonna call it, because that's what it seems like. And Black Badge agents are saying something about an ark. Second biblical reference here. If we don't remember, Noah's Ark.
Noah's Ark.
Two of every animal on this boat, big floods. Noah's there, and he's like, we have to save so we can repopulate Earth, I guess.
Yes, but everyone else dies.
Yeah. Then it's not fun. And so Jeremy's there. Jeremy's in the cell. That's where Jeremy's been.
Finally found out where the heck he was.
Jeremy has been going through a lot. Okay, but I feel like he should get a new job.
Yep.
And so then one of the Black Badge agents mentions that it's like the feed bin. I was like, feed? You're feeding people? These people? What are we doing here? Like, very not okay. But we see some familiar faces in this cell. The werewolf from last episode is in there.
Yeah.
And there's another person, of course, in there, but we'll get into that later. And so Doc's like, Jeremy, what the hell? Why are you in here? And Jeremy's like, well, I tried to protest this protocol I've never even heard of. And so they put me in here. And so Doc takes one of the guns from the agents and shoots the electronic lock.
I mean, like, Doc, why would you do that?
Doc just like, he thinks he's doing good, and you're like, that's an electronic lock. This isn't just some like key lock that if you shoot it, it breaks. This one, just like, if you shoot it, it cannot work anymore.
Now you definitely can't get them out.
Exactly. And so then Wynonna shows up at Black Badge. She's trying to get Jeremy and Doc. And who walks in there? That dude we don't like. Turns out his name is General Graham.
Yay.
Ugh.
No.
I hope he's only in it for the last 3 episodes. I do not like him.
Yeah, I'm like, I would be happy something to happen to you.
Yes. And so Wynonna's like, I'm here to get Jeremy and Doc, so I'm saving my sister. And he's like, why don't you just like come with me? Like, we could work together. And she's like, no.
No.
And she keeps saying it, and he's just like, come with me. It's like, ew, no. But he kind of explains that like, we've been trying to fight against this fog, nothing's working, and the triangle is going to get swallowed by the fog in a matter of days. This clues us in that the next 2 episodes are going to be pretty much back to back from each other. Like, things are happening very quick now.
Yeah,
and so General Graham takes Wynonna to see Jeremy, and he still wants Wynonna to stay at Black Badge. He's like, I have this abandoned silo in Montana. We could do shit there. And she's like, no, thank you. And so initially, Wynonna was going to take Jeremy over Doc. Now, General Graham points out kind of the obvious here, like, Jeremy's smart and everything, but like, Doc's very strong and could help. There's a lot of emotional turmoil between Wynonna and Doc. And Wynonna does not want to deal with that right now.
No, definitely not.
So she initially picks Jeremy.
Yeah. I think it was kind of an interesting thing because you can see the kind of inner turmoil that she's having to make that decision. But I think because she knows that Jeremy has been working on something to get rid of the fog, so she knows that he's her best chance with getting Waverly back. But doing that to Doc is another thing.
It hurts him a lot, though. You can see in his face that he's upset when she said Jeremy.
Yeah.
And
see, where I was like, well, don't you get it? Do you not understand? You've been talking about morality and, you know, making the right decisions and kind of thinking about it with a clear head rather than just being impulsive. And Wynonna is obviously thinking about this, and then you're mad at her for it.
Like the impulsive thing to do would be to pick Doc because they have such a relationship. Like, they both love each other, whether they're whatever stage of whatever they're in right now. They both love each other. And so Wynonna's really thought about this because she's like, this is a very difficult situation to kind of tread through. So she has to think the best way to get out of it. But then she spots Cleo over in the corner and she's like, actually, guys, Doc, I'm real sorry about a lot of things, but I'm picking Cleo. And everybody's just like, what?
Why?
Everybody just went, what? And Cleo's like, me? Really? Okay.
But it makes sense, like, what we know about Cleo, whereas the rest of them were like, well, why would you do that?
Yeah.
But obviously Wynonna knows, so.
Yeah. Wynonna has a plan. Wynonna always has a plan. May not be a good plan, but it's a plan.
It's a plan.
But I feel like but this is like the first time we get her apologizing to Doc.
Yeah.
Not a very big apology, very quick, but she does apologize.
Yeah, and it seems genuine. There's many sorries.
It is genuine, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's like first step right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then cut back to the cabin. Jolene is holding Waverly in her arms as Waverly is like bleeding out in
That
so
scene
much
is the
pain.
most. I was watching it again earlier, and I couldn't really watch it. It was just because it's so heartbreaking. Like, I mean, Dom's acting is insane in
So
that.
good.
Well, Zoe as well, but like
Their chemistry is insane.
Yeah, and but like the kind of the rawness of Waverly in that moment, and how you know her cries are so genuine, and it, you know, like often you know crying can seem a little bit over the top or something in like films, but I don't know, it just was so raw. It like really hit me.
Yeah,
and I was
like I feel like are you actually in pain here? Like, is something going on? Are you like on your period or something, or what's? Like,
you're in so much pain right now.
And so she says, I don't want to be an angel. I don't want to be a demon. I just want to go home. I was like, oh, poor Waverly.
Like, how to make this even more heartbreaking.
I've cried so many times this episode already. Did not need another reason.
Leave me alone. I'm trying to be quiet. It's 2 a.m.
I was like, oh, that hurts so bad. Like, she did not choose any of this to happen to her. Like, and nor was she prepared. Like, Wynonna was prepared to be the Earp heir because that's like a family thing. Like, Waverly found out about this not that long ago.
Not that long ago, and now
she doesn't have, and she doesn't have any history to go off of with it either. Like, she met her dad, but that was real quick. He's gone. And so she literally has nothing. So she's just like, I didn't want to do this at all. Just let me be.
Yeah, I mean, I saw someone mention on Twitter a parallel is in 402 when Waverly gets home, how she talks, you know, how Nicole is like her home, and like there's kind of quite a few parallels between both Waverly and Nicole referring to each other as home.
Yeah.
And that kind of parallel there when she's talking is just heartbreaking.
It hurts. And then we cut back to Wynonna and Rachel. And so Rachel is kind of waiting next to Casey here. She built a nice little shelter thing. I don't know.
Shelter and then
flowers.
Oh,
beautiful. And so Wynonna's like, this is really nice. This is kind of that one moment where Wynonna can like kind of be like, be sad, and then she has to just go back. And Rachel says, is this what it's like for you all the time? And it is what it's like for Wynonna all the time, which is very upsetting.
Yeah, and it kind of shows that link again in how it's Wynonna's defense mechanism is to kind of ignore the fact that someone just died. And but I think she lets herself recognize it a little bit for Rachel's sake, because she realizes, you know, with the gesture of building the shelter and the flowers, that she realizes that, you know, it is actually important to recognize that he's died. And I think she does it for Rachel in a way.
Yeah. And then but they have Cleo there, so Wynonna goes down and reaches into Casey's hand, but Casey has something in his hand there, and it's a bit of Jolene's hair, so she needs that, so she takes that. And Cleo is setting up her little sacrifice thingy, rock formation or whatever.
Yeah.
And so she's like, I need something of the person you're trying to get to. And so Wynonna hands the hair over to Cleo, and Cleo does the thing. She bleeds. She cuts her hand, bleeds over the hair, and it works. And then Billy pops up.
Okay. But not the sort of Billy that we want.
Not the Billy that we want. But the thing is Wynonna can see Billy. Wynonna's like, excuse me, I'm not supposed to see him. And Cleo's like, I actually put some of your hair in there so you could see him. I was like, Cleo.
Well, the panic before she finished that sentence, because I thought, because when she says I put a bit of your hair in there, I was thinking, oh, so you've like kind of flipped it, so now Billy's going for Wynonna. But she was like, oh, so you can see him. I was like, God, he nearly gave me a heart attack. But
Immediately, I was like, Cleo, why did you do that? But then I'm like, that's actually kind of smart because Wynonna would be following literally nothing to go to Jolene.
And now
so
she
it kind of makes sense.
Some knowledge, and so she can see him. But the fear in Wynonna's face when she
so scared is, and Rachel's just like, what's going on?
Just like, what the heck is going on right now? And that little moment when Rachel was like, you're not gonna like send Billy, and Wynonna's like, no, definitely not.
No, and then it's Billy, and I was like, oh, dang it.
But Wynonna knows it's gonna be Billy, but she's like protecting her, which I thought was more Nicole than Wynonna in like style. But I think Wynonna's like learning how to protect,
how to parent.
How to parent.
And so then Billy just like, Cleo hands the leash for Billy. And I find that so funny that there's a leash.
Yeah, it's like, so weird. Really? You have to put a leash on him?
It's not a dog.
No.
And so, but Billy and Wynonna just go into the fog, and Billy leads Wynonna to Jolene. They get there, and so Billy obviously goes to Jolene first because that's what he's after. And so Wynonna and Waverly kind of have this little moment thing. And Wynonna's like, are you okay? What's going on? And Waverly's like, Peacemaker is somewhere. Just get Peacemaker, shoot Jolene, and then if it comes to it, stop me too. And Wynonna, like for Wynonna, this is like so confusing. She's like, what?
What do you mean?
Why would I stop you? But okay. And then Jolene just beats Billy, like he's on the ground. And she yeets Wynonna out of that cabin. And this was the moment we saw in the trailer, and I was like, oh, now I know what's going on.
But it was like, I was kind of because obviously Waverly's first thing to say to her was Peacemaker's in here, find Peacemaker before something happens with Jolene and Billy. But Wynonna didn't make any move. Her thing was just trying to get Waverly. But Waverly's thinking in like a more logical mindset, even though she's in so much pain, she still goes to that place of like get Peacemaker, whereas Wynonna's kind of overtaken with this.
We need to get you out of here.
Yeah, she didn't know what to expect going in, and here's Waverly can't even get up off the floor. She's in so much pain. Wynonna doesn't really react in time before Jolene she gets thrown out.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah. I was that happened then.
And so she had cheated, and then Waverly just like full sends here. She just like, her eyes turn around, her face starts to go dark. And I remember from there was like photos from like trailers and stuff like that where we saw the gray in Waverly's eyes. But in those photos we didn't get the gray around her face. So we didn't know what's going on. So I'm like, they edited that out just to throw us off.
No, and I think it was good though, because I mean, I saw someone on Twitter, like when it first happened, they were like, well, at least she's not gone blind, because that was some theory, is that because obviously there's that
she was gonna go blind,
trailer that's like Waverly saying like, what did you do to me? And that people thinking that maybe Jolene had made her go blind, but obviously that's not the case. A bit more extreme than that.
It is. And so then Waverly gets up, and the blood stains on her back look like wings. Just
they have grown significantly. I feel like Jolene may have done more than just the first initial cut where she got that feather, because there's blood, more blood.
There's a lot more blood. There's blood on both sids, so kind of just like, I feel like she like cut open where they're supposed to come out, just to kind of trigger the wings. And then Waverly stand up, her face has gone completely gray, she's real angry, and has no emotion.
No.
What does she say?
I don't remember the word she said.
It's something about like, I don't care about you, or something along those lines.
Yeah, basically, because Jolene is talking about kind of how majestic she is and like how amazing it is, and but Waverly just has no, and kind of similar to how when she sat on the throne in the garden, the same thing with having no care, and that's it that she gets there with Jolene.
And so then she's using her strength angel powers, and she's like choking Jolene,
I
I
think
don't know, but the funny part that I thought of was with the Obi-Wan reference in the beginning. I was like, she's using the Force. That's what was
yeah,
in my head.
it's true. Yeah, it does look like the Force because she's like doing that with her hands, which is like,
Yeah.
and then yeah, Jojen's like
Jolene's
choking.
just like, I was like, wow.
Yeah, because she's like kind of all stiff. Because obviously,
Mhm.
usually when someone's being choked, they like put their hands to their throat to try and
Yeah.
like get them away. Whereas obviously, if she's completely like paralyzed, then that would make
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
But
But for some part of it, I also think it's like internally something's happening. Like Waverly's doing some work on the inside.
well, it's kind of what it seemed like when Waverly killed Mam. It kind of
Mhm.
seemed like that because obviously the
Yeah.
blood and you get like internal bleeding. So it seemed
Yeah.
like that's maybe
Could be
what's
the
going
same
on.
thing. Exactly. And then cut back to Black Badge. Mercedes is back. I was so
I was
excited.
so happy when she came around the corner. I was like, yes.
But the way she came, she's like, I've been hiding in those ducks for hours. I was like, of course you are, Mercedes.
Why not?
Yeah. And so and she has a key card to get them out of there, but
Mhm.
it turns out that Remy kind of said something about this early in the episode, but Black Badge stormed Glory Hole and Mercedes kind of got caught up in it.
Yeah.
And so but now she's hiding in Black Badge waiting to get everybody out. And so and so they try and hotwire. Jeremy hotwires the lock and it works. So they open the door and they're good to go, kind of.
Mhm.
And General Graham comes
Guess who
marching back
appeared?
down. Oh God, comes at the worst times.
I know.
And so he's like, "No, you're not leaving." He closes the door again, and so they're still locked in there now. And they're trying to like persuade him into letting them go. And Mercedes is like, "No, guys." He's like, "That's not happening." And so she tries to persuade them, but before that, she says, "Have you ever seen a demon with a rack like this?" I was like, "Wow, Mercedes, classic Mercedes."
And then they all say Kate, and I was like, "Oh, Kate reference."
Yeah,
I like that. I was like,
and good. I miss Kate. I liked Kate.
I liked her too. So yeah,
And so
was
yeah, and so Mercedes is like, "Let me persuade this guy into letting us go." And she tries and fails, and Graham shoots her. It's very scary.
I know. I was like, wait a second, Casey just died. Can we not with all these characters?
Yeah.
But we have different clips that suggest that she survived.
She's still alive. We see her in other stuff. She's still there.
Yeah, there's definitely, and she's fine in those scenes.
She's
as
alive
well,
in those scenes.
She's
standing up. She's walking. She's
which
okay.
would suggest that she's alive.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
it's just her ghost. It's a very realistic ghost.
Mm-hmm.
And then we come back to Wynonna. Wynonna's like trying to, she got yeeted out of the cabin. She's in the fog, and so she's like trying to get out, but she's covering her mouth, obviously very suffocating to not be able to breathe. But then the fog kind of goes away. Like she's laying there, and the fog kind of washes over her, and so she can breathe. And she's like, "Oh my God!" And so as she's kind of regaining herself and breathing again, Waverly walks out of the fog.
She does.
Full gray. The dress has sleeves now.
I don't understand that.
Like it's the same dress. There's just sleeves.
Sleeves?
Yeah, that's what it was. I was very confused. And her hair is slicked back. She's mood has changed. And she says to Wynonna, "Your journey is over, Wynonna." Wings pop out. Zoom in. Mine has only just begun. I was like, what? What? And then that's where the episode ends. I'm like, no.
I was like, I knew it was going to happen as well. Like as soon as I saw Waverly coming out of the fog and Wynonna, I was like, this is going to end. And I was like, oh God. And then, the wings as well. That was insane.
And they're so dark. Everything is so dark. I'm like, this is not what I was hoping for when I wanted wings.
Everyone was like, wings. We're thinking like Julian wings, like pure white wings.
Pure white. These are not it. Yeah. And I had a thought about them being so dark is when I was saying I was going to talk about this, and this is the time. when Jolene says that demons are just fallen angels, that sparks into Waverly's head that she's a demon. She's very dark and stuff. And this is a lot of dark emotion that she's putting into this right now. And so I think as things progress and as Wynonna and Nicole try to get through to her, she'll turn pure. And
I agree with that. I'd seen some people saying as well that the wings that came out in this episode look very dark, whereas that scene that later, they look more speckled.
Yeah, and so there's some white, and especially there's white in the top of the wings right behind her where they would come out of her back. It's the white kind of can start there too. So as things progress, you'll have more white.
Hopefully they'll get more white.
Yeah. And that's where the episode ends. And oh my gosh.
I also saw a theory of someone saying that maybe the fog is actually something that Waverly can control.
Yes, because what had happened is her wings came out and the fog kind of dissipated.
Yeah, and
kind of went away.
And Nicole made it out of the fog. They both in a way, like, because Nicole describes it as like it like pushed her out, and obviously the way you see Wynonna kind of like just goes around her. And if Waverly is subconsciously controlling it, she would push them out of the fog. Which I thought was a really interesting theory. And
so like maybe it was like Waverly obviously probably saw Nicole when Nicole went into the cabin and fought with Jolene. But like maybe Waverly just kind of yeeted Nicole out of the fog so she wouldn't get hurt like Casey did. And then obviously like when Wynonna gets out of the fog goes over, Waverly is walking up to Wynonna. So I think Waverly can see Wynonna. And so she's like, there's Wynonna, let's get the fog out. And stuff like that. So it's very interesting to see what these actual powers are.
I'm seeing the development of her kind of figuring it as well.
Crazy episode. And then the trailer for next episode right after. Ooh, lots of stuff going down. Everybody's obsessing over the outfit that Waverly's wearing. Oh my God.
Just thinking, how did they get Dom to wear that? I saw it and I was like,
Mollie, they already had her naked. I think that outfit isn't that much.
Okay, but I don't know, just with like Dom more recently, obviously we haven't seen her loads, but like things are just so, I don't know, I feel like
it's not it's not Dom, but like Dark Waverly, man, is looking good.
A lot of people were like, well, they've done this to kind of make up for the fact that we've got Dark Waverly. Is they're like, yeah, okay, it's not great because obviously that means Waverly's gone dark. However,
she looks good.
We're gonna do this so the others don't freak out too much, or just freak out in a different way.
And so everything looks kind of chaotic at Black Badge. We see Black Badge on fire, and like people are running out, something's going on. Revolt, I don't know,
I wouldn't be surprised,
but like now I have to wait another week.
I know,
for this episode. Oh my God. But the thing is like people are speculating about next episode being the wedding episode. How are they gonna do that now? How are they gonna do that now? There's so much going on.
When we were like talking about it like last time I was on the podcast, like when we were talking about the trailer, we were like, yeah, okay, like when do you think the wedding episode would be? And everyone was like, well, we hope it's not the last episode so we get like a bit of them being married. Whereas now I'm like, it's got to be the last episode.
It's hard to imagine that it being in 411. But the thing is like people are saying like maybe it gets resolved, like the stuff gets resolved from before the episode ends, so we have some time for the wedding. But then what are they going to do for the season finale? Like, does the wedding get messed up, or like people are speculating time jumps, and I'm like, another one? Really?
I kind of hope there isn't a time jump. I don't know why, but I feel like
we've had like 2 now. Okay.
Yeah, it's like chill with the time travel. But yeah, no, I think the wedding will be the last episode, just because I just don't get how they'd be able to resolve the whole dark Waverly thing without kind of resolving it too quickly to the point where it doesn't really have impact. Like if she's only dark Waverly for like 20 minutes on screen or something, it's not really
real disappointing. I'm not gonna lie here. Like, I don't necessarily want her to be dark Waverly, but like I want to enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, kind of see the storyline. I just wish they had, because I always think it'd be really interesting if they knew for a fact that they were getting season 5 when writing the end of season 4, and how that would have changed, because then they would have more time to play out certain storylines. And that's just how it works. Obviously, that's how TV shows go. You don't always know if you're going to get another season, so you have to write with that awareness, which is obviously what they did. But I think it'd be so interesting to know.
It's really interesting. And there was another part, we've seen this in both the trailer. We've seen this in trailer where Nicole's like lying on the ground and Waverly's running up to her. Waverly is completely normal.
But she's wearing the same dress.
She's wearing the same dress, but there's no sleeves. Like the sleeves have gone away. So I'm very confused on what's going on.
And it can't be that can't be that much of a time difference. She's got to change back. Yeah. Because there's into that dress at BBD where she's still dark Waverly because she's got the wings, everything. So you have that, but then she's somehow got to get back to the forest, still be in the same dress. Hair is back to normal, running to get Nicole. Yeah. I don't understand how those storyline, what order that's going to be in. But
it's going to be very interesting. But a lot happening and very exciting, but there's only 2 more episodes and I'm not prepared.
No, neither.
Well, now's the time we get into the regular talk stuff. So you started in June watching the show. How did you find the show?
I started watching a web series called Carmilla, which is what Dom was involved in.
Yeah, she was in the movie.
I watched the series and then I watched the film, and so I found that, and basically every time if I find like a film or a TV show or something that I really, really like, I always go and look at those interviews with the people who were involved in it, because I always found that sort of stuff interesting. And I watched the interview that Dom did, where she mentioned Wynonna Earp, and then it was like in lockdown, obviously, so I was kind of bored, and I just looked it up on Netflix and it was there. And usually I add stuff to my list and I usually leave it for ages, and I like barely there's so much I just haven't watched. But I just randomly was like, oh, maybe I will watch it. And I literally watched, because it's been 3 seasons, and I watched them so quickly.
It's a binge show.
Yeah, definitely. And I just watched it really quick, and then went and basically found every interview panel thing that I could.
As we all do.
Yeah, and there's so many, and there's definitely some that I still haven't seen, and every time I like look at new panels, I'm like, wait a second, I haven't seen that one. Found through Carmilla, and so
that's so fun. I watched Carmilla after I started watching Wynonna Earp. I was watching the Lexicon stuff, and there was the Holstein panel, and I was like, okay, well, this seems interesting, so I might as well just watch the show now. And so I did that. I haven't watched the movie yet, which is really disappointing.
It is good. I really liked the storyline. Obviously, movies are different to TV shows because you have a lot less time for things to happen. But I think well with it.
That's good. Okay. And so when did you started watching in June, did you immediately go into the social media aspect after you watched it, or was that a little bit later?
Probably a few weeks, I'd say. I think I watched the show and then I watched like loads of panels and interviews and things like that. And obviously in lots of the panels and things, they mention like social media and that sort of thing. And I think so I kind of found stuff on Instagram initially, and then TikTok. And then I previously, like, I've had a Twitter account for ages, but I just never go on Twitter. So then I like took that account and like changed it, and so I don't know, I was on Twitter for the 4A, but like I didn't really post much. Whereas now I'm like more involved in it, which is really fun. I love like just talking to other Earpers. It's just so fun because even though, you know, we're all across the world, all different ages, you know, everything, it's like we have this connection of the show, and it's I just love the connections that you make with you know, people. It's really fun to just have something so in common, and I feel like I don't have that like in my like immediate life. Like I have really good friends that, you know, I love so much, but like I don't have that really deep connection with them, and I feel like I have it more with people I've never met.
And it's like the like people just may think like, oh, how did you finish it? Oh, it's because of this show. And you're like, a show? And you're like, but the show has so much more to it that people connect over, and like people connect over different aspects of the show, and then that goes into deeper like personal reasons for a lot of people, and so like you connect over that stuff, and then it's kind of just like we just deeper understanding of everybody no matter like what the relationship is.
I think that's been my kind of one of my holdups with like my friends in real life watching the show. Like I have told a few of them like, oh, it's really good, you know, like you should watch it. I don't think any of them have, but because I don't want them to come back and be like, oh, I didn't mind it, but like I don't want them to have, you know, I only want them to watch it if they're going to have the same kind of, oh my god, it's so good, because it's so special to me. I think that's how like all Earpers feel about it, is like we're protective of it in a way, because you know, although you take the show as a whole, but it has so many different themes within it which have importance to everyone, you know, obviously especially WEarp with that, and that's extremely important to me. And you know, if I don't know, one of my friends watched it and was like, oh, I don't really like Waverly or something like that, I just couldn't
like,
deal with it.
What did you just say? What did you just say?
Yeah, so I don't talk about it tons with my friends in real life, even though sometimes like you'd watch it so I can talk to someone in real life about it. But at the same time, I think I'll just stick with the Earpers on Twitter because they understand.
No, like my friends and my family know I watch the show, and it wasn't until like in January where I really started talking with other Earpers, and after that we just talk every day now. We literally talk every day, and I've spent most of my time talking with them than I have anybody else recently, because I can't like go out with my in real life friends. Kind of in a lockdown situation. So I can talk with them at home just as easily. So I've done a lot of time, but like we haven't known each other for that long, but like we know a lot about each other, and we quickly we opened up like so fast, and I find that so interesting because like in real life I am not like that. Like if you meet somebody and you're very kind of reserved, and I'm just kind of like, I'll gradually get into stuff, but like online, like I just feel comfortable than I would before. And either it's the show, knowing we relate to this show, and so we're all kind of in the same boat, or if it's the safety of the internet type of thing.
I get what you mean. I feel the same way. I think I'm kind of in that process now. I think I am still quite reserved online. I think I see a lot of things on like people's Instagram and like that sort of thing, and people like asking like, how do you make Earper friends and things like that, because it's just difficult to like get that kind of initial conversation, and then that's like how you get the friendships kind of going, I guess. And I'm like kind of starting to do that, but like I still find it difficult, I think, just because by my natural kind of reservation, like in real life, it takes me a while to kind of get to know someone, and you know, it develops over time, whereas so I have that like reservation still, but I think I see, because like all the other Earpers and like everyone's friendships are so lovely, and like seeing that sort of on like Twitter and TikTok, right?
People met like people have gotten married because they met people through this show.
I know, it's insane.
That's insane. Like, didn't somebody have like a wedding at a con? Like, didn't they get like?
I think like, so.
Like, what? Like, that's so incredible. Like, and it's so weird because like I I started doing TikTok. I had social media stuff and I was aware of it on before I started TikTok, and then once I did that, I kind of like, I should do it on everywhere else. And so, but I did TikTok, and I started like October, and so I was doing my stuff, and I was just kind of doing whatever I wanted because I don't really care. And then once I had mentioned the podcast, because I had started this podcast a long time ago, I had done it, and it was by myself, and I had done episodes on 309, 310. Like it was like 2018. It was a while ago. And so then I was like, maybe now that I have somewhat of a small following here, should I bring that back up? And so I did that on TikTok, and people were like, yeah. And so I did that, and that's where like I started more interacting with people, and I've met a bunch of Earpers, and I've talked with people, and people like what I do. And so I'm like, okay, great. I have something to do with my life now.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of like in very early stages of that. I think I started talking to like more people and I've helped quite a few UK Earpers find a way to watch the show, because I know quite a few UK Earpers struggle to find, or like international Earpers in general, struggle to find a place to watch the show. So that's been like nice, trying to like figure out how to get people to be able to watch the show. But yeah, so I've tried to like, because my kind of natural reaction would be to kind of just help them and then just like leave that conversation, whereas like now I've tried to like continue the conversation and like talk about the show more, which has been really nice to kind of just chat to people.
And for some people it starts off slow, and I kind of real quick, I was not ready for this at all, and I just did it. I was like, okay. And but I think the relationship with the show definitely expedites things into going a little bit faster, and it's helped so many people. It's like it's helped me open up in a way that I wasn't at a place before in my life. Like I'm still young, okay, I'm 18, I got life to live, but like watching this show, like I had just finished my first year of high school, 9th grade is when I started watching the show live on TV. And so watching it like live and seeing like the interactions of fans on Twitter and on social media, stuff like that, I was like, this is a special thing here that I was not ready to put myself into. Because one, I have no way of like really interacting with anybody. Like I could tweet stuff out, not that anybody's going to see it, and don't have the money to go to a con, and there's none where I really live. I don't have the money to fly somewhere. So I was kind of just I sat in this like my own little bubble for a while, and then it really like season 4, you kind of sometimes people kind of just have to put yourself out there in some way or another. And so some people are real easy with that, and some people it takes some time. And I speculated it for a while if I would do it or not, because I had a TikTok account, I used it, and then I stopped using it, and I was like, you know what, let's just do something I enjoy. And so you find a part of the fandom that you enjoy and where you can apply yourself to and make sure you enjoy it, and it's not for other people. And I think that's where people get their enjoyment. You have people who do like social media, who do edits, who do fan art, or who like cosplay and stuff like that. And I'm like, those are all amazing. I could never do any of that myself, because that is not the type of person I am. Like, don't have the patience, don't have the time. And so I'm just gonna stick with this.
Mini edit, but like it's literally just cutting together clips. Like I don't know how people do those like amazing edits. I'm like, I have no idea how to do that.
It's crazy.
They're so good. And I mean, I've like had a go. I've got like some like fanfics saved on my phone, but I'm like get nowhere with them.
Fanfics are.
I'm not good at writing, but I have like ideas and things. So I mean, I may eventually finish one and post one, but I think I saw something on Twitter a while ago which was really sweet. It was someone had put stuff saying like, it, the Earpers who make fan art and write fanfic, and make edits and all of this are amazing and it's great, but you're no less of a fan if you can't or don't do thing. And I think that really hit, because I almost felt like initially I thought, well, maybe I should try doing edits or something, because I want to like show my appreciation
for the show.
Yeah, now I'm thinking more like,
and for people who like aren't on the social media aspect or don't like do the edits or do the fan art or the fanfic, you're still watching the show, you're still enjoying the show like everybody else, and that's all you kind of need to be an Earper. You don't need to put yourself out there. If you watch the show and you enjoy it, you're there, you're with us. And I think that's the best part of the show.
And I hope that you know, though we don't know if we're going to have a season 5, I think the community's here to stay, and I think that's something the cast have said as well.
When the show ends, everybody's still going to be here, like nobody's leaving. And like there's a lot of other shows with like cult followings kind of things where like you're still fan. The show may be over, but there's still the fans of the show, and they still talk about it, and they still do stuff. Like actors from shows still go to like conventions and stuff and do these things. Like we're still gonna have those.
And I think the cast know as well that we're you know, there was an interview that like a written interview that Kat had done, and you know, the interviewer was asking like, you know, do you like realize that you've got these people and they are probably going to follow you for the rest of your career? And it's true, you know. I think about it sometimes. I'm like, I wonder in like 20 years time, and we'll kind of, you know, go onto the internet and just like, oh, I wonder what everyone is now.
Exactly. And Mel did an interview, and she was talking about like if this show were to end, she is kind of afraid of like losing everybody from the show, because everybody's gonna go off and do their own thing and do these other projects. This cast like works on other shows and works on Wynonna. So without Wynonna, like how much time are they gonna have to see each other?
And that makes so much sense in that you know, okay, they're not going to lose how much they love each other and how much they care for each other, but it is like, you know, just the logistics of like being able to see each other. You know, if they're doing different shows on like the other side of the country from each other, or even in different countries, or you know, they're living in different places, you know, they don't have like a really easy excuse to see each other really often. And you know, especially like for Dom for instance, because obviously she lives part-time like in the UK, well not right now, but did, if she decides to go back, like when would she see them if they're all in Canada and she's in the UK, you know?
And so it's sad to think about that, but I think we're never gonna lose like the show may be gone at some point, and but like we're never gonna lose the relationships and the stuff we've gained from the show. Like the cast is still out there, like they're just doing other things. They still exist. They're there, and we can rewatch the show. Well, some people, depending on how you watch the show, you can't, but I think the producers are working on that.
I think I saw something, I think it was something Kat said at a con once, but she said, you know, when they're not filming, she thinks of them still living their lives, they're still out there. And I thought that was really sweet. So like when the show does end, hopefully it ends in a way that's satisfying and happy.
I hope it's completely satisfying. Like I need a real proper ending for this show, and I don't want to speculate over things when the show ends.
I know what you mean. I want to know, you know, with Waverly and Wynonna and Nicole and Doc and like Jeremy as well, and Rachel, but like kind of that they're all they're in a safe place. There's there's nothing that could hurt them, and they're like
exactly like
okay.
I want Wynonna to be in a place where she doesn't feel like she has to kill anything anymore. And just like live her life.
I also thought it was interesting about people speculating if Alice would make an appearance in the last episode. I don't know, because I feel like to get
unless it's a time jump, I don't know.
Yeah, I think because for a proper ending, that's kind of got all the ends tied off for Wynonna to be fully happy would include Alice. However, if you get a season 5, you've just brought a toddler into the show. What do you do with a toddler, like, in this world that they've got? If you do get season 5, obviously things have to happen in season 5, obviously, and now you have a toddler.
So and that's, child actors are real hard to work with.
Yeah, as Melanie has mentioned.
Yeah. And especially with this type of show and the struggles it has gone through, adding that is going to be real hard.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Especially, I mean, with a baby, you can kind of, like how they did, you know, they got her wrapped in a blue blanket, so you can't really see her. But like, you can't really hide a toddler like that. So it would have to be your child.
It would, like, but I feel like it would have to, like, real time jump into, like, a kind of an older child. Like, I imagine
they can't jump too far, because then, like,
I know we can't, but like it won't look right. But let's think, how old would Alice be now?
Like, I think
like 2 or 3.
Probably near 3, because of the time jump.
So. Exactly. And but like, having a 2 or 3-year-old on this show does not seem right, especially because the time slot it's in now, it's in a later time slot for reasons. And so having a kid that age on that type of show, I think, doesn't really fit.
It doesn't.
Like, the only explanation would be a time jump, so they could have an older kid or whatever age to do that. Or maybe because Alice got sent somewhere, some shit happened and she just aged real fast without everybody else not aging. I don't know.
Imagine it's be like, oh yeah, it makes total sense, she's 10, and everyone's like,
No, it's like, think of like Renesmee in Twilight, like Bella and Edward's kid, like, just ages real fast for whatever reason. I was like, they could do that. It makes sense. Like, it doesn't not make sense for this show. There's a lot of crazy stuff that goes on.
I mean, Wynonna keeps being pregnant when the time stops, so, and the baby keeps growing, so, you know.
Exactly.
That's possible. I think, and as well with Kat did that interview, and I saw loads on Twitter, but because Kat had talked about, you know, she hopes that in the future that Waverly and Nicole would have kids, and I was like, yes, I hope that too. Oh my god, can you imagine?
I was like, it should just be like a way hot sitcom with kids.
Yes, and with kids, and no demons, no scary things.
Nothing. Yeah, they've moved away from purgatory.
Just, you know, all of them with Alice and multiple way hot children would be great.
Amazing. Please.
Everyone would watch it. That's the thing. Like, nothing could happen.
Everybody would watch it.
Yeah, literally, it could just be them going about their lives, just normal, you know. Everyone.
There doesn't have to be like a specific plot line. Like,
I always think that, I'm like, if you have like established characters, is there a world where we can just have like a film that's just them being happy and them like doing things together?
Exactly.
Like, because I'd watch that.
I would. Like, a happy show for once would be nice.
Yeah, where just nothing bad happens to them. They're happy all the time.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have talked for 2 hours.
We have.
Oh wow. My goodness. Well, Molly, where can people find you on the social medias?
On Twitter at rainbow_waves, and then everything else is like Instagram and TikTok is send rainbow waves.
There you go. And you just posted the TikTok you posted earlier today was really good. I like that one.
I always put them, I just like find a sound and then I'll like film something random and just like write down the idea that's popped into my head, and it like sits there for a while. So I've had that one.
Sometimes that's how, like, sometimes I'll find a sound, I'm like, I could use this, I don't know how yet, but I'll use it at some point. And so it sits there, and then I finally think of the idea and I'll use it, or I just like find the sound, I was like, I know what I could do.
Yeah, like, I know what I'm doing.
Like immediately. And so it's really interesting to see like the creative flow that TikTok gives you at certain points.
Yeah.
All right, well, there you go, everybody. Remember, we have 2 more episodes left. If you're in the US, it's on Sci-Fi at Friday nights on 10 p.m. Eastern time, and Canada, I believe, is CTV Sci-Fi. And if you're in other places, I have no idea how you're watching it. I know
You
it's
can't really watch it, but go find some Earpers on Twitter who are in the UK or
always,
somewhere
yes.
else. They'll help.
Yeah, and if you're in Australia, some people do the link thing there. But if you want to pay for Stan, I know a Aussie friend that's doing that. You can pay for Stan and watch it there. Also with Stan, you kind of get like, if you pay for it on iTunes, you get that like behind the scenes clip that's specifically for iTunes. Stan also comes with that, guys. So if you need a plus, there it is. And yeah, so and 410 was crazy, 411 is gonna be crazier, and 412, I'm just gonna die.
Yeah, pretty much.
So Mollie, thank you for coming on again, and hopefully we'll talk again. And I will see everybody next week.